Pokemon gym leaders stand as paragons of Pokemon battling, legends of the craft, renowned for the mastery of the art, which is having a bunch of Pokemon beat the shit out of a different group of Pokemon. Well, at least in theory anyway. In reality, most gym leaders are semi-difficult mini-bosses that don't require too much thought. I want to investigate and grade the various Pokemon gym leaders, but not by their strength or difficulty because that's so variable. It depends on what Pokemon you have, what level they're at, and how good you are at the game. No. I want to analyze how good Pokemon gym leaders are at actually creating teams. Because ever since I first started playing the game, even at 4 years old, I recognized most gym leaders are actually really bad at constructing teams. And it's always been weird to me that these supposed gods of the Pokemon world are legit kind of trash at doing the one thing they've literally dedicated their entire lives to: creating a Pokemon team. This is the first episode on this series, with each new episode focusing on a new game and a new set of gym leaders. As this is the first episode, we are starting with the first games, Pokemon Red and Blue, with the next video focusing on Generation 2, then Generation 3's Ruby and Sapphire, and so on. I'll also make a separate video for Pokemon Yellow because there are enough differences in the team to warrant a separate investigation, but it'll be a shorter and more comparative analysis. This applies to all the games, as most generations actually have fairly different Pokemon gym leader teams between their original releases and their better later versions. So let's look at the judging criteria. The biggest and most important thing that every gym leader is being judged against is their potential within the general parameters which are already set. This is firstly things such as how many Pokemon they have and their Pokemon's levels. Mild spoilers, but I'm not going to scold Brock for not having his Geodude be a Golem or not having a fully fleshed out team of 6. He's the first gym leader, and his Pokemon are a low level, so I'll take this into account. This potential parameter is also how strong their team can be. Some types are just stronger than others. They have better Pokemon to choose from, the Pokemon learn better moves, and their Pokemon pool has greater subtypes or moveset diversities. I don't think it's fair to give someone a better grade simply because their chosen gym leader type is inherently stronger. It's much more about what choices they made with the options available to them. The main aspect for judging is, unsurprisingly, the Pokemon that they choose. And right off the bat, the biggest sin a gym leader can make, the #1 destroyer of their grade, is having Pokemon from the same evolution line. Or worse, just straight up having the same Pokemon on their team. I've played Pokemon for 2 decades now and talked to many people about their teams, and never, not once, have I or anyone I've ever spoken to had the same Pokemon on their team. Sure, I've caught a bunch of Zigzagoons at the beginning of Pokemon Emerald to get all the free items from their pickup ability, but I have never had the same Pokemon for the purpose of using them competitively. And if I did, it would be because I'd be doing a challenge run or something. Yet Pokemon trainers all across the world seem compelled to use a gaggle of identical Pokemon, which is unacceptable in any instance. But for a gym leader, a supposed titan of the sport, this is downright malpractice, and they will be punished for their heresy. One step down from this is type combos. Now, gym leaders are obviously known for sticking to their chosen type, so that's fine. But if that's the gambit you're committed to, you can't then also double down on repeating the same secondary type as well. You need to be actively diverging your typing and getting some greater coverage. If you're the rock type gym leader and your main Pokemon is rock ground, your only other Pokemon shouldn't also be rock ground, especially if there are other options. Cough, cough, Brock, get it together. What we're going to be doing a lot is seeing what Pokemon they could have had and what decisions they could have made in order to make the team better. Notably, better doesn't necessarily mean stronger. This is because the game programmers are constantly capping gym leaders' difficulty by giving them weaker Pokemon or having them at lower levels, whatever. So this means better compositionally while keeping them at roughly the same power level. For example, even though Misty's team would be a lot better if it was a Lapras and a Starmie, that's obviously way more difficult than the programmers were ever going for the second gym leader. So it's an unrealistic solution. More than just balancing for strength, I'll keep in mind what's realistic. Sabrina isn't going to have the fact that she doesn't have Mewtwo on her team held against her, even though it's not just the best psychic type in the game, it's the best Pokemon in the game. Because Obviously she doesn't have Mewtwo, it's a one-of-a-kind legendary. Similarly, gym leaders just don't have starters, so Misty, Erika, and Blaine won't lose points for not having these Pokemon. Moving on to moves, I'm looking for the Pokemon to have the best moves that it should have at that level, or roughly the best move list at least. So if the Pokemon has leveled up and replaced a good move with a shit move, or just not learnt a new move, then I'll hold that against the gym leader, because that's just dumb and you're a gym leader and you shouldn't be making stupid decisions like that. The last major category is fundamentals. Has the gym leader done the bare fundamentals that anyone playing the game would do? Like letting a Pokemon evolve when it gets to its evolution level. If the answer is no, they didn't, they did something stupid that has made them weaker, well yeah, that's going to affect their grade. There's also tons of things I took into account situationally, and I'll bring them up when they're relevant for each gym leader. Furthermore, I didn't create a perfect algorithm or an exact rubric I can share with you. I sort of just vibed it, and sometimes I'd analyze it and I'd get a B+. But then my heart would tell me they're no better than a B, so that's what I would go with. The actual grades themselves will vary from an A+ to an F. A+ is a decent team that a regular 12-year-old could create. Not the strongest, or the best put together. No, that's way too high a bar for Gen 1. Literally just a moderately good team a child with a medium level of knowledge of the game could make. F, on the other hand, is an incomprehensible mess of a team that consistently makes you question what the fuck the gym leader was doing. A couple notes onto the footage and resources I'll be using. I would verse each gym leader multiple times in order to get all the footage that I needed. So you'll watch me defeat a Pokemon, then it'll have full health again, then I'll defeat it again. You'll also see me being purposefully doo-doo, using moves that aren't very good or straight up are not effective. Or even just sending out Pokemon whose only job is to die. This is all in the name of having the battle last longer and getting more footage. Also, there will be a constant stream of materials next to the gameplay. These provide insights and visuals for the information I'm talking about and my analysis. These are things like gym leader teams, Pokemon moves, Gen 1 stats, all of which are screenshots from Bulbapedia. With that, let's dive into the analysis and look at our first gym leader, Brock. Brock's team is comprised of a level 12 Geodude and a level 14 Onix, which for the first gym is perfectly acceptable. The most notable thing though about Brock is that despite being a rock type gym leader, every move his team has is normal type. Now, neither Geodude or Onix should have learnt a rock type move yet, so you can't really hold this against Brock, but it also doesn't help him. Maybe he could have taught Onix 1 through TM, where instead Brock gives his Onix Bide, a move which has the Pokemon take damage for 2 turns, then deals double the damage back to the opponent. This isn't a good move, but on Onix it kind of works, so I can't be too annoyed. Plus, there's only 2 rock type moves in the entire generation. Rock Throw, which both of his Pokemon will learn naturally, so it doesn't really make sense to teach through a TM, and Rock Slide, which is a base power 75 and would be too strong for a first gym leader to have. So it's still bad that he doesn't have any rock type moves, but it's excusable. On to the team itself. Geodude and Onix. Well, Brock has done the bare minimum here of having 2 Pokemon which are from different evolution lines, so well done Brock. Shockingly, you are in rarefied air. However, both of these Pokemon are rock ground type, which is pretty sloppy. So what are the options? There's the Rhyhorn line and the fossil Pokemon. Rhyhorn is rock ground anyway, so that doesn't really help. That leaves us with the fossil Pokemon. Aerodactyl is one of the best Pokemon in the game, so not having that in the first gym is probably for the best, which works down to Omanyte and Kabuto, 2 rock-water Pokemon. Both of these would be more interesting choices and would give better type diversity to the team. Of these 2 Pokemon, I think Omanyte is the clear pick. Why? Because Omanyte has Water Gun. This gives more coverage to one of Rock's weaknesses, ground types, which is kind of useful, but it also just gives your team a move that literally isn't a normal type. Even Kabuto would be a slightly different take on the moveset that it shares with Geodude, a low damage normal type move and a defense up move. I get why Brock has a Geodude, it's a standard early game Pokemon, but I think having either Omanyte or Kabuto would be better than having just 2 rock ground types, and would have made Brock as a rock type gym leader more interesting because he has a cool and unique rock type Pokemon. You may be arguing, well, it's too unrealistic to expect Brock to get a fossil and resurrect it. There's only 3 in the entire game, which on the surface makes sense, but when you dig a little deeper is just giving the man excuses. The fossils I'm talking about are in Mount Moon, the location you're going to go right after you beat the gym, and presumably where Brock caught his Geodude, which means Brock has been to Mount Moon and could have easily picked up the fossils himself.
They're not hard to find, they're right on the ground, and sure, you have to battle some guy for them, but even he's weaker than Brock. So if Brock had bothered to just go a little deeper, then he could have found them. And maybe he did. Maybe he does have a fossil, but he hasn't made it to Cinnabar Island to get them processed because he doesn't have a water Pokemon to surf with. But you're a gym leader and you should expect to put in the work to make your team better. Plus, gym leaders pull wild and wacky shit all the time, and if you want to cut it, that's how you need to roll. Also, I'm aware that when you resurrect these Pokemon, they're level 30, but I think Brock having a level 12 Omanyte would be fine. Either way, not having one of the fossil Pokemon isn't a huge deal, but it's certainly a drawback. Lastly, there's Onix. I don't have too much to say about Onix. It's a cool Pokemon, and at this level it's strong and certainly a challenge, but of all the Rock-type Pokemon, it will eventually become the weakest, and that kind of makes your staple Pokemon not great. It's probably the best option he could have gone with though, as all the other rock types aren't good at this level either. I mean, neither is Onix really, but this is a fair choice I don't have any issue with. Overall, Brock gets a B. He has two Pokemon that are from different evolution lines, so right there he's default crushing it. But he doesn't have any rock moves, choosing his TM move to be Bide, and he could have slightly more diverse secondary types. Maybe these are low-level complaints and excusable, and perhaps he deserves a B+, or even an A-, but I can't in good faith give a team of Geodude and Onix without any rock-type moves anything higher than a B. It just feels so wrong. So I didn't, and Brock must live with that. Next we get to the watery tartary that is Misty's team. A level 18 Staryu and a level 21 Starmie, and immediately, it is obvious, Misty has done fucked up. Let's start with what Misty has done right. Her Starmie. Starmie is a sick Pokemon, and having one at level 21 is really cool. Of all the water-type Pokemon in the game, Starmie is one of the best, and thanks to Gen 1's special stat, combining special attack and special defense into one stat, Starmie is one of the strongest water Pokemon in the game outright. So for the second gym leader to have one of the strongest Pokemon of their type on their team is really good. For Starmie's moves, they're kind of good. Starmie is water psychic, yet only has water type moves plus tackle. If you're thinking, once it levels up, it'll gain more moves, that would make sense, but you'd be wrong. Starmie learns no new moves, it only learns moves as Staryu, which for the most part are alright. The biggest issue here is that her Starmie is basically never going to learn 4 moves. The only way Misty can get new moves is by TMs. And to her credit, she has done that, teaching her Starmie Bubble Beam, an altogether pretty strong move which will do a fair bit of damage, especially compared to what most level 21s can do. If Misty can get Psychic onto her Starmie, then she's starting to really get a powerhouse going, and the teaching of Bubble Beam kind of indicates she's going down that path. She's set the precedent that she'll teach Starmie more useful moves. But I don't think it's really fair to give her too much credit here because all gym leaders teach their best Pokemon a TM, the TM they end up giving you. So she hasn't done anything special. She can get a smidge of praise for having her TM actually help her Pokemon, as some gym leaders' TMs are bad or straight up useless, so she's doing well in that department. But ultimately, as it stands, you can only fully expect her Starmie to never learn more than 3 moves, and that's a pretty big mistake. She has 2 options. The first is to wait until her Staryu learns a 3rd move at level 22, Harden, then she can evolve it. This is so close to the level she's at, it's kind of crazy to not wait. The second option is to pull some shady trainer shit and just have a Starmie at level 1, where it'd also get the move Harden by default. This may seem like a rogue suggestion on my part, but other gym leaders pull this trick, so I don't think it's unreasonable at all. Either way, her Starmie would have the move Harden, so not anything massive. But it's still better than just not having a 4th move. And honestly, I'm not sure why the program has worked so hard to make sure she didn't have this move. Whatever the reason, it makes her look pretty bad. As bad as only having 3 moves is, it pales in comparison to the brain dead and inexcusable move of having her other Pokemon be the weaker, unevolved version. Here is every water type Pokemon in Gen 1. But let's be fair to Misty and eliminate the less realistic choices. First, the starters, plus every Pokemon that evolves above level 21, which eliminates some of them. Also, let's say we're going to stick with Starmie and switch out Staryu, which we don't need to do. We could easily replace Starmie and stay with Staryu. But let's get rid of any Pokemon that are too strong, which is Gyarados, Lapras, and Vaporeon. Even though a team of Staryu and any of these 3 Pokemon would be sick and unquestionably better. And let's get rid of Magikarp because it's Magikarp. At this point, there's still 11 options. Now, I guess you could get rid of the fossil Pokemon because unlike Brock, it doesn't really make sense for Misty to have any of these. And we could get rid of Slowpoke because it's also water psychic, even though many of the Pokemon on this list are just water, so doubling up type isn't really a big deal in this case. Plus, some of these Pokemon will eventually get a secondary type when they evolve, so having them now is fine in my opinion. And it actually has a psychic move, so it would be great. But I'm just fishing for ways to cut down options. Going even further, her gym has 3 of these Pokemon, Shelter, Goldeen, and Horsey. So to avoid redundancy, let's cut them. I mean, the other trainers stand separate to the gym leader's team building, but from a programming standpoint, it gives her at least some reason. You could easily just switch them, like one of the trainers has Staryu and she has Horsey, but whatever. Either way, after all this, after getting rid of a bunch of fairly valid options, Misty still has 5 Pokemon she could have chosen for her team, and instead, she chose the pre-evolution of her best Pokemon. Admittedly, of this list, only Poliwag would have a water move, having a moveset of Bubble, Hypnosis, and it would also have Water Gun if it was 1 level higher, which is so minimal, I think that's an easy adjustment to make. So maybe that's the only option. But fine, take that. A Poliwag with Water Gun and Hypnosis is better than a Staryu with Water Gun and Tackle, and it means you fulfill the ever most basic team building method of having Pokemon from different evolution lines. There's an added element of eventually having a Water Psychic Pokemon and a Water Fighting Pokemon, which would be much cooler than just 2 Starmies. As I go on, I'll talk about wanting the Pokemon to have at least 1 move corresponding to the gym's type, but I'd be more forgiving at the second gym, and Seal's Headbutt or Tentacle's Acid would be great, and I'd be totally cool with her having either of those. At the end of the day, I had to bend over backwards to eliminate options, giving her the barest reason why other Pokemon wouldn't be better, and we still ended up with 1 clear choice that I really like, and for that, her team is unjustifiable, and her choices are bad. So Misty's grade is E+. While her Starmie is pretty good and is helping pull her grade up, there is the fact that it only has 3 moves, and maybe there's nothing she could really do about it and still have it at level 21, but it's also not impossible for the AI to have pulled something off. And when I think of what her team could be, it makes me sad to know what it is. Up next is the Zap Man himself, and Lieutenant Surge's team is fine-ish, consisting of a level 21 Voltorb, a level 18 Pikachu, and a level 24 Raichu. Yeah, we'll talk about the Pikachu-Raichu thing, but I want to start with the Raichu because it's actually worse than you might think. Comparing Pikachu and Raichu's moves, you may think it's weird that Pikachu has more moves than Raichu. And yes, it is weird, and the reason is because much like Starmie, Raichu doesn't learn any new moves after it evolves. However, unlike Starmie, which wouldn't have learned any new moves if it had stayed in its Staryu form by its current level, Raichu would have learned a bunch of moves if it had stayed as Pikachu for just a while longer. Quick note, make sure to look at the left side because the left side is the moves Pokemon get in Pokemon Red and Blue, while the right side is the moves they learn in Pokemon Yellow. Images like this will pop up a couple times throughout the video and it's usually easy enough to interpret. Pikachu is just an outlier as far as changes because the entire Pokemon Yellow game is focused around it, so they wanted to make it a lot stronger. Anyway, that's that. Now, because Raichu doesn't have Thunder Wave, which it would have if it was acquired at level 1, we know that it was at some point evolved from a Pikachu. And if we look at what move it would have learned next as a Pikachu, Thunder Wave, at level 9, we know Lieutenant Surge evolved his Raichu at level 8 or below. On one hand, this is a baller move. Catching a Pikachu and basically just insta-evolving, that's low-key alpha. But on the other hand, what the actual fuck are you doing, Lieutenant Surge? Just wait, seriously, just have a Pikachu for a couple more levels. Clearly, you have no issue with Pikachus, you have one on your team. At the very least, wait until you get 4 moves, which if you're going to teach a Thunderbolt, is level 9. Level 9! This brash, foolish, short-sighted thinking is certainly what you'd expect from military personnel, but it's still full-on derelict. Realistically, Lieutenant Surge should be waiting until at least level 16 to get both Thunder Wave and Quick Attack, and then I can see how the 10 level wait until Swift, plus the other moves you get after that, maybe not being worth it, so you could Thunderstone at a level 16, but goddamn, couldn't wait until level 9? Quick Attack and Thunder Wave would also be useful. This isn't like he dodged Harden or Tail Whip or something useless. A priority move that does more damage than Tackle and a move to Paralyze would be great on Raichu, so not taking them is terrible decision making. With that, let's address the Pikachu situation. In what is no surprise at all, Lieutenant Surge has 2 Pokemon from the same evolution line. So what are the choices? Well, unlike Misty's 1,000,001 choices, Lieutenant Surge doesn't really have all that much to choose from, but there are still some choices. There's Magnemite and Magneton, Electabuzz, Jolteon, and Zapdos. Zapdos is a legendary, so that's gone, and Magneton comes into being at level 30, so that's gone. This leaves us with 3 legitimate choices. The seemingly obvious choice would be to switch out Pikachu for Magnemite, but there's some issues. Firstly, Magnemite doesn't learn a second move until level 21. To fix this, you could switch its level with Voltorb's and you wouldn't affect Voltorb's move, so you'd be fine there. The real problem here is that Voltorb and Magnemite both have the moves Tackle and Sonic Boom, which don't really differentiate them much from each other and aren't very interesting. So I kind of think you just have to take one of them, and since Voltorb also has Screech, that's the obvious choice to me, and fair play for Lieutenant Surge for making the correct choice here. When trying to fix the Pikachu problem, at least Pikachu has some unique moves, both from Voltorb and Magnemite, and also from Raichu because Lieutenant Surge is a big dumb. So Pikachu is very much carrying its weight on this team and compositionally easily his best Pokemon. Which means I think the smarter solution is actually to get rid of the Raichu and bring in Electabuzz or Jolteon. Jolteon is a classic and a total fan favorite Pokemon, and I think if Lieutenant Surge had a Jolteon instead of a Raichu, everyone would be happy. Now, because we know Lieutenant Surge would insta-evolve his Eevee, the moves would be Tackle, Thunderbolt, and Sand Attack, which is pretty lame and perhaps something we should not be hoping for. So there's Electabuzz, which is a Pokemon that barely makes any appearances in the games, and having it be Lieutenant Surge's main Pokemon would be great. Its moveset would be similar to Raichu, if not better, having Quick Attack, Leer, and Thunderbolt, and most importantly, it would avoid the weird same evolution line double up, while highlighting a Pokemon we never see. Overall, Lieutenant Surge gets a D+. The way he has evolved his Raichu is so stupid, and not gym leader quality, and the error of doubling up evolution lines is forever bad. But at least in this case, I kind of get it, because having the Pikachu makes the team more interesting than just having a Magnemite, but he could have been more creative with his main Pokemon, and he wasn't, so D+. Erika the Grass-type gym leader has a level 29 Victreebel, a level 24 Tangler, and a level 29 Vileplume, making her the second gym leader to have all her Pokemon be from unique evolution lines, which as the 4th gym leader is 50% so far. Not terrible, I guess. But she is also the last gym leader to achieve this floor level feat, making her the best shot we have of getting a Pokemon Red and Blue gym leader an A+. Not the only shot, but the best. So, does she do it? Well, it's extremely close, and I went back and forth in the grade many times. The biggest reason for my indecision is that 2 of her Pokemon are grass poison types, and maybe I'm a real ball buster expecting a gym leader to have below average level understanding of type diversity, but I'm not just going to be giving out A+ willy-nilly. No, you've got to be better Gen 1 gym leaders. And in fairness, as the generations go on, they improve a lot. And I'll get to start focusing on much more than do they simply use different Pokemon. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The best thing Erika does is she has a team of fully evolved Pokemon already, which for having a team with everyone under level 30 is really impressive. And I'm sure a precedent which every gym leader from here on out will follow. Her first Pokemon, Victreebel, is a strong opener. Victreebel has Razor Leaf, Poison Powder, Sleep Powder, and Wrap, and looking at what moves Victreebel could potentially have at level 29, you could maybe have Stun Spore, which, sure, that's fine, but Poison Powder and Sleep Powder are probably better, especially considering how ridiculous Sleep is in Gen 1, with it lasting 1 to 7 turns, and the Pokemon cannot attack on the turn it wakes up. The other genuine option is Acid, which gives more type coverage to Grass and Bug. That's right, Poison is super effective against Bug types in Gen 1. This makes it quite useful because Bug type moves are super effective against Grass types as well as Poison types, which means 2 of her team is 4 times weak to Bug. Yes, that's right, Bug and Poison are both super effective against each other in Gen 1. It's incredibly strange, but that's the world we live in. So this makes Acid a really strong choice in my opinion. It may seem obvious to get rid of Wrap for Acid, but Wrap is unironically good, and on Victreebel it's kind of fuck off powerful. In Gen 1, moves like Wrap, Bind, and Fire Spin work by trapping the Pokemon for 2 to 5 turns, and in that time, the Pokemon can't attack, they just have to accept their fate. Now, I really break down the numbers when talking about Ponyta and Rapidash's Fire Spin, as it works the exact same, but what's important is that the 15 base power per attack stacks quite quickly, and is stronger than you might think. That's just the start, because this becomes distinctly OP when it's combined with status moves. The first option is Wrap plus Poison Powder. If you poison a Pokemon, then just keep using Wrap, there's a good chance that Pokemon will just die before it ever gets the chance to attack again, as it takes poison damage every single turn it's being held by Wrap. For example, if Victreebel uses Wrap twice, combining for 8 total turns, while that Pokemon is poisoned, then that's the equivalent of a 120 base power move, plus literally half the Pokemon's health in poison damage. Then there's Wrap plus Sleep. Well, yeah, good luck getting another turn because Pokemon don't have their sleep counter increase per turn in Wrap. Rather, it goes up each Wrap used. So Broken Sleep plus Broken Wrap equals massively broken combo. Now, both Poison and Sleep can be semi-countered, not really, but it's harder to completely stop them if the Pokemon is faster, which is where Stun Spore can emerge, because a paralyzed Pokemon's speed is reduced by 75% in Gen 1. So Victreebel will outspeed everything, and when Wrap misses, there's a 25% chance the Pokemon will be paralyzed. And this can take down some even way stronger Pokemon, as demonstrated by some random Weeping Bell in Erika's gym doing me dirty. All of this is to say that while Acid makes a lot of sense and Victreebel should probably have it, I think that Wrap's strength when combined with status conditions means that I'd keep Wrap on her Victreebel. And of course we're keeping Razor Leaf. It could be said that this shouldn't really count because while she has this Redonk tactic at hand, she doesn't actively use it because of the Gen 1 AI. That's true, but I'm not really concerned what the AI actually do with their Pokemon when battling because then we'd just be analysing the programming. I'm more looking at these teams through the prism of if they were a real trainer in the Pokemon world who theoretically existed in more than just the single space they were programmed to stand. Something strange to note, but something I love, is that it appears Erika has the moves from a Victreebel at level 1, rather than a Bellsprout which evolves into a Weeping Bell at level 21, then at some point was changed into a Victreebel using a Leaf Stone. We know this because a level 29 Victreebel can't get Razor Leaf any other way. While weird, it makes her move list better, so well done Erika, you did some shifty trainer shit to improve your team, and honestly, that's what I expect from a gym leader and what they should be doing. What they shouldn't be doing is fucking around with trash like Tangler. Tangler has 2 moves, Bind, basically Wrap, and Constrict, a 10 base power move that lowers speed a third of the time. So, not good. They're also not good because of the fact they're being used by a ball of trash vines, aka Tangler. Like, well done I guess for having a Tangler instead of a Gloom or Weeping Bell, but honestly, either of those Pokemon would be better. But hey, you have evolution line diversity, which is the most basic requirement. And in honesty, I'm pretty sure this non-entity of a threat is really just here to bring the team's difficulty down, and I'm glad this is how she achieves that, rather than just a shittier pre-evolution. And she needs to bring her power level down, because up next, we have another proper beast. Vileplume, a legitimate Pokemon with a decent move list, 2 thumbs up Erika. Like Victreebel, it seems Erika got her Vileplume at level 1, because it can't get Petal Downs any other way, so double props for this illegal move. On top, the moves that Vileplume has means there's a little more thought than just taking the last 4 moves, which is pretty standard stuff most children perfect, but hyper advanced tech for Gen 1 gym leaders, so all this is good. But Vileplume should probably have Acid over Poison Powder. 1, because you may just want to focus on putting enemies to sleep as it's very strong as I mentioned, and you can't poison and sleep. Plus, it'll give coverage to a Pokemon you're 4 times weak to. But here's the counter to that. Which Pokemon is Acid really for? There's not a particularly long list. Firstly, flying types, which you'd otherwise have to use Victreebel's aforementioned Wrap strats, which is fine. The same applies to grass types. It'd be good against some bug types, although there's not even too much to fear here, as most don't have bug type moves anyway. Beedrill does, so you're fucked if that happens. But that's literally true for all gym leaders. If someone has a Pokemon that is really good against your team's type, you're fucked. That's it, pack it in, go home, hope has abandoned you. And yeah, you want coverage for your major weaknesses, but that's just not the standard I'm holding Gen 1 gym leaders to. So in most cases, you'd just be using your grass move, with Poison Powder being an eternally useful status condition move that can be used on anyone. And what's better, greater usability or a greater effect when used? I've been going back and forth, and I think it could be debated. And that's the thing, I think it could be debated, and I'm not expecting these gym leaders to be deep in the numbers, in the same way I wouldn't expect a 12-year-old on a casual playthrough to be on Bulbapedia, scouring which Pokemon actually have bug moves, analyzing the super effectiveness against all the types and doing the math, how much a base 40 damage plus stat poison type moves helps when taking into account secondary types of all possible Pokemons they could verse, and so on. I think if a 12-year-old picked either of these moves, it could be easily justified, and for that, the lack of acid is much less of a sin than it could be. I'd still take acid, but it's not a huge deal. Is it weird that she has 2 grass poison types and neither of them have an offensive poison move? Yeah, for sure. But when broken down, is it indefensible? No, not at all. It kind of makes sense, and it might even be the best moveset she could have. So, after all that, let's discuss what other Pokemon Erika could have picked for this team. There's 2 main things we need to look at changing: replacing Tangler and not doubling up on a poison grass type. Erika has limited options, but she still has some alright ones all the same. There's the starter line, which she's not going to use, which leaves her with the Paras and Execute lines. I think the obvious choice here is switching out Tangler for Parasect. Parasect is not a strong Pokemon by any means, and isn't really even stronger than Tangler. The main issue with Tangler is its moves. Tangler has a legitimately good special. It's 100, which is the same as both Victory Bell and Vileplume. Yet Tangler's moves, while already super weak, are physical, so they don't even take advantage of Tangler's one good stat. If Tangler was level 29 and had Absorb, that would probably be enough to warrant its place on the team. Parasect's moves are better, but still a shrug, consisting of Scratch, Stun Spore, and Leech Life, which at the very least take advantage of Parasect's highest stat being Attack. Leech Life's bug typing is also super effective against Grass, Poison, and Psychic, so this would be good coverage against 3 types she's otherwise going to struggle with. Although Leech Life is only base 20 power, so it's not amazing by any means, but clearly still better than Tangler's Bind and Constrict. Stun Spore is also moderately useful, and since neither Vileplume or Victory Bell are using it, it provides something a little different. So Parasect would be better now, but in the scheme of things, it's worth keeping in mind that while her Tangler is terrible at this level, it will become better than Parasect and at some point be a genuinely usable Pokemon. And this is a slight diatribe, but this terrible move pool of Tanglers is because many Pokemon in Gen 1 don't learn moves if the game isn't expecting you to have them at a lower level about when you can catch them. So you see tons of Pokemon that have few moves at level 1, then don't learn any until much later. You get Tangler at a higher level, so that's when it learns moves. Same applies to Pokemon like Magmar and Snorlax and a whole collection of others. And that's not really Erika's fault. There's also no breeding in Gen 1, so there's no way to get these Pokemon at lower levels. Now, maybe a Parasect is too powerful for this team, and you'd argue she should have a Paras. But because Paras evolves at level 24, it'd have to be level 23 for her to not commit a way greater mistake. And even then, it'd be pretty similar. So I think by default, Tangler kind of justifies its place in the team, as its terribleness allows for her other Pokemon to be really good. The other switch is putting Executor on the team. The 2 main options, switch out Victory Bell and switch out Vileplume. Let's start by switching out Victory Bell. Whatever we do, I think it's fair to assume just like Victory Bell and Vileplume, Executor would also have been acquired at level 1, which in its case hurts it rather than helps it, missing out on both Reflect and Leech Seed, 2 moves which would be useful. If this isn't the case, then obviously Executor is a lot stronger, but in either scenario, it doesn't really solve its main issue, which is not having an attacking grass type move. Executor's moves of Stomp, Barrage, and Hypnosis are solid and could pose a decent threat as is. However, we could make it stronger by switching it with Vileplume instead and giving it Mega Drain. With Victory Bell and Executor, we could have 2 fairly strong grass types, both with grass type moves and slightly different movesets, giving greater diversity. But is this really better? Let's say the new team is Victory Bell, Parasect, and Executor. Sure, we have greater type diversity, but we don't even get an offensive psychic move from doing so, and Parasect's grass bug typing is undoubtedly weaker defensively than Tangler's pure grass. Also, we got rid of the team's strongest move, Vileplume's Petal Dance. Well, technically Victory Bell's Razor Leaf is the strongest move because it always crits, so it's incredibly strong, but either way, what have we really done? It's maybe now that I should say I am fully aware the best combination would be Victory Bell, Executor, and Vileplume. which means that situationally, it isn't always best to diversify your Pokemon types just for the sake of doing so, and maybe Erika has already gone through all of this. There's also a bunch of other combinations involving Weeping Bell or Gloom with an Executor instead of a Tangler, which would still probably increase the strength of the team too much, and it's critical to maintain the balance of the team's challengingness. But in any situation where you are adding either a Weeping Bell or Gloom, they'd lose their good grass type move acquired from Erika's haven't fully evolved Pokemon at level 1 shiftiness. Plus, I never mentioned adding Execute to the team, which brings up a whole new collection of combinations. I could go on and on about what Erika could do, and that's to her credit. There's a lot to analyze here, and more importantly, the way I have to discuss her is different from any other gym leader so far. I'm actually getting into the finer details, and I'm starting to split hairs to improve the team, rather than making super obvious and easy choices that make it better. I also think that Erika justifies the decision of having two Pokemon being the same type combination with basically the same moveset, because ultimately, these are probably the two strongest Pokemon you could have, especially since she has them both fully evolved, which is more impressive than you might think. This is even more true because she's literally pulling illegal shit to make her team stronger, which is all credit to her, and she gets bonus points for that, especially considering there's trainers like Surge doing legal shit just to make their team weaker. And the squeaky wheel of not having the move Acid is actually not all that squeaky when broken down. So for all these reasons, Erika becomes the first gym leader in Pokemon Red and Blue to earn the ever coveted A+ grade. Yes, obviously if I wanted to make a better team using the same restrictions as Erika, I could do so, no problem, and I'm sure you could too. But that was never what I was asking from these gym leaders. What I wanted was basic team construction principles being displayed and a limited number of mistakes, which Erika has shown. Plus she's also shown she could do advanced strategies like not just having the last 4 moves her Pokemon would learn, which is apparently a unique skill. And as far as mistakes go, I don't think she really makes any. There's maybe some stuff which she could do better, but all her decisions are defensible and make sense. So, congratulations Erika. There's literally no greater victory, no sweeter prize you could possibly be bequeathed than an A+ on my gym leader team grading video. Well done, you have earned it. After riding this high, maybe a new leaf has been turned, the ills of the past are behind us, it was just early game jitters, purposefully bad programming that was holding the likes of Misty and Lieutenant Surge down. Who's next? And what do they have? Koga is up with a fucking dumpster fire of a team, a bold-faced abomination that flies a big old fuck you flag in front of all Pokemon trainers. Koga's shit show Suicide Squad is made up of a level 39 Muk, a level 43 Weezing, and 2 identical level 37 Koffings. Let's start with the Koffings because it's actually worse than you might think. Looking at the fact that these Koffings are level 37 and the Weezing is level 43, it'd be safe to assume that Koffings evolve somewhere between level 38 and 43, but nope. They evolve at level 35. So what the actual fuck are you doing, Koga? Just have 3 Weezings. Why are you holding your Pokemon back like this? Just let them evolve like a regular trainer. There's only one legitimate reason why you'd purposely not evolve a Pokemon and wait until they're at a high level. It's to get a move earlier because most pre-evolutions learn moves at lower levels than their evolved counterparts, or to learn a move you otherwise can't learn at all. And to his credit, that is exactly what Koga is trying to do, get a move earlier. So what incredible move is Koga holding his Koffings back from evolving to acquire? Smokescreen, a move that Koffings get at level 37 and Weezings get all the way later at level 39. Oh my god, Koga, just evolve them, it doesn't matter. Worse even, Koga could have gotten Smokescreen on his Koffings when they went to level 37, then evolved them after acquiring the move. So if he really wanted them to have the move so badly, then he already achieved this. So there's actually no reason to not evolve them at this point. Plus, Koga is holding back 2 Pokemon from evolving so he can get this one move. He must really rate it then, right? Then why the fuck does he not have it on his Weezing? Clearly, he doesn't even think that highly of it if he hasn't put it on his main Pokemon. And if you're beginning to make the argument that he doesn't need to have it on his main Pokemon because he already has 2 Pokemon specifically to have the move Smokescreen, then listen to yourself. Why the fuck does Koga have 2 Pokemon specifically designed to have the move Smokescreen? Why? It's not even a good move. It's kind of annoying at best. Now I get that one of the reasons he has 2 Koffings is to make the battle easier, which, while this may be the programmer's fault, Koga must take the blame for, as if this collection of 1s and 0s was an actual person living in the Pokemon world, what he has done is so fucking dumb and straight up terrible gym trainer trash, he simply cannot be forgiven. This isn't like Tangler, because Erika wasn't purposely nerfing Tangler. It's just got shit moves at level 24. This is just Koga being fucking garbage. I also get that Koga is supposed to be a ninja, so the smoke screens are because of smoke bombs. But having 2 shitty Pokemon in your team just to fit your other job/preferred cosplay is super dumb and definitely detracting from his ability to run a Pokemon gym. Just go be a ninja or whatever, that's clearly your passion. You don't get to be a ninja and run a gym if your ninjaing is impairing your ability to do this highly regarded and important role. Moving off these toxic balls of misery and onto the rest of his team. I don't really have much to say about his Muck and Weezing. Both of them got rid of low damage normal type moves and Pound and Tackle respectively, which leaves them with just poison type attacks. This is silly, and in Weezing case there's actually no reason to keep Smog over Tackle, but whatever, both of these Pokemon are fine I suppose. Although, Weezing has self-destruct and it's his last Pokemon, so he is actually just putting himself in a position where he can't win, and in 2 of my 3 battles versus him, it ended with him suiciding out. Now, I can't hold this against him because the Pokemon order is forced through programming and obviously not something Koga would be subjected to if he were real. I just think it's noteworthy because it really points to how shittily designed he is. Let's go straight to the list of Pokemon that could replace the 2 Koffings because that's undoubtedly the villainy of the piece. There are actually quite a few options available to Koga, which makes it all the more disappointing he went with 2 Koffings. In Grass-type land, there's the Grass starter line with Erika's Victory Bell and Vileplumes. There's also 2 Bugs, Beedrill and Venomoth, as well as some ground fusion with Nidoking and Nidoqueen, as well as their middle evolutions. Plus squids, snakes, ghosts, and bats. A lot of these are legitimate choices, which could be really good, but I suppose we can eliminate some options. The starters, obviously. From this group, any of these Pokemon would be better than the 2 repeats, but some aren't really all that good of a choice. Now I've mentioned this a little, but never in a major way. Sometimes Pokemon don't get used because the programmers want variety, and don't want to just shove the same Pokemon at you, or these Pokemon are kind of other trainers' Pokemon, which is what is happening here. And I give the gym leaders a little leeway, but at the same time, lots of Pokemon feature more than others, and having 2 Koffings is doing nothing to give other Pokemon the spotlight. The ghosts are clearly territory of Agatha, but even still, Koga could have a Haunter on his team, but it can't even learn poison moves, so I guess it's not really that good of a choice. Nidoking and Nidoqueen are taken by Giovanni, so I get why he doesn't have them. He can still have a Nidorina or a Nidorina, or realistically just have one of Nidoking or Nidoqueen, and it'd be fine, but whatever. Venomoth, which we'll get to, is already on Sabrina's team, plus the only poison move it has is Poison Powder. I'd still take it over a Koffing, but it's kind of a wash. The Grass-type Pokemon, I guess are Erika's, but you could easily switch one of hers out for Executor, then give either Victory Bell or Vileplume to Koga with Acid and Poison Powder, and that would be a great addition. If anything, Erika purposefully taking both the Grass and Poison types that aren't the Grass starters is kind of stepping on Koga's toes, so I think both of these are actually fair game, but I get it. Golbat isn't really a good choice because it doesn't learn any Poison type moves, so I'm happy to remove it. We are now left with 3 viable options. Beedrill's only poison move is Poison Sting, which is a terrible move, but it does have some okay normal type moves along with Twin Needle and Pin Missile, which would be great for coverage against a big foe of poison types, psychic types, as well as providing coverage against other poison types, which the team can't really do much against because Muck and Weezing don't have Pound and Tackle. So I think this would be a fine addition. I mean, Beedrill's not super strong or anything, but it's still better. Next, there's Arbok and Tentacruel, and straight up, it is flagrant disrespect that neither of these Pokemon made the squad. Arbok not making the team just seems mean. It's the poison snake Pokemon. That's its thing. Along with Muck and Weezing, it is the only pure poison type in Gen 1 when fully evolved. It's even purple, just like its poison brethren. You know, because it's poison type. Admittedly, at this level it wouldn't have acid yet, so its poison move would be Poison Sting. I mean 15 base power, yeesh. But Poison Sting, Glare, Screech and Bite isn't a terrible moveset, and an Arbok could be a decent utility player on this team. So now Tentacruel, a Pokemon which would have an alright moveset and has some pretty good stats. Having a water move would also help against ground types. I mean, so would the more powerful grass moves from either Victory Bell or Vileplume, but it is what it is. Tentacruel is also such a poison type, it's a poison squid, so I think it would fit. Overall, there's a bunch of options Koga could have chosen. Any of Beedrill, Arbok, and Tentacruel makes sense, because they're not even all that good, so it's not like you're making the team too powerful, which you would be doing if you added Nidoqueen and Victory Bell, for example. Koga, as everyone should expect, gets an F. He has 2 identical Pokemon, which are both pre-evolutions of his best Pokemon, and he hasn't even bothered to evolve them, for which there is literally no reason, except making his team weaker. And the only reason he may even have these stupid coughings on his team in the first place is because he teaches ninjutsu, which is a portrayal of the integrity of running a Pokemon gym. There's also a bunch of other legitimately good choices he could have made, along with a few okay options which at least fit the team, and he said, "Fuck that noise, I ride and die for coughing." Also, he completely dogged Arbok, and I don't know why. I don't even really like Arbok, but I don't know why Koga hit it with this rude a move. Koga's team is shit, and Koga himself is a garbage person. To quote from his Bulbapedia entry, he likes the despair and horror that poison-type Pokemon can inflict on others. What a fucking psycho. Sabrina, the young gym leader with straight-up mind powers. She has a pretty fun team that I vibe, a team that is arguably the strongest in the game, and she is a genuine contender for a second A+. She has a level 38 Kadabra, a level 37 Mr. Mime, a level 38 Venomoth, and a level 43 Alakazam. I want to address Venomoth because I'm not against it. I don't really think gym leaders need to stick to their type strictly, and I like the outside the box thinking here. It has Psybeam, so it's justified its existence on this team with this one move. But I think it goes further than that, as the 2 status effects move, Poison Powder and Stun Spore, can be really useful and bring something unique to her team. Having the ability to poison and paralyze enemies is great, and having a Pokemon that still has that psychic element means it's a great fit. So overall, this is a fine enough move for me. Plus, it's not like there's any poison or bug type gym leaders that could use a Venomoth. Next we have Mr. Mime, the hands himself. A pretty similar situation to Venomoth for me. He provides the team something a little different. Barrow raises defense by 2 stages, giving the team some tankiness against physical attacks that's sorely lacking, while Light Screen would be probably better in the newer generations because in Gen 1 it lasts forever, only on the Pokemon that uses it. Put these together and you have a potential very hard to take down defensive stalwart. Then Double Slap and Confusion are good enough moves to round it out. Ultimately, both Venomoth and Mr. Mime are perfectly viable, the exact caliber of Pokemon you'd expect from the 6 gym leaders' less important Pokemon, while also both having different battle styles that bring more dynamism to the team as a whole. So far, Sabrina is straight crushing it, and this is actually a really well put together team, with some nice variants in its construction. But then we get to her Kadabra and Alakazam, and these 2 together are sort of just strangely assembled. Of course, there's the same evolution line thing, which I'll address, but at the same time, Kadabra is a sicko, a straight dang-ass freak with a spoon, and fucking with one, even though you have the next evolution, is more excusable than almost any other Pokemon. If not, the number 1 Pokemon this is acceptable with because it is so powerful. Plus, a minor point, getting the next evolution requires trading, which she can obviously do, she's AI, but it's the hardest type of evolution, so I guess she gets a little leeway because of that. The real issue with these 2 is that Kadabra cannibalizes Alakazam's best move, Psychic. Alakazam just doesn't have Psychic, and it 100% should. There's no defensible reason not to have it. The reason she's doing it is to make her team worse. She's actually sandbagging, which is not something any real person does, unless they're doing a challenge or something. For Alakazam, Recover and Reflect are the best choices in Scythe Wave. Sabrina's TM move gives some coverage because it does 1 damage to 1.5 times the user's level in damage, so with anything Psychic wouldn't be good against, Psywave would work in a pinch. But Psychic is arguably the strongest move in the game, and it isn't really resisted by anything, so just blasting fools with an Alakazam Psychic is a great strategy that can get you past basically everything with no trouble, and that's what her Alakazam should be, a dominant menace that wrecks fools with Psychic and then has Reflect, Recover and Psywave in the back pocket if needed. And it's not. It's all that with Psybeam, a weaker move, 65 base power compared to Psychic's 90. Instead, you have Kadabra, a weaker Pokemon with Psychic, and it's clearly just nerfing Sabrina so she's not too strong, which is something most gym leaders need to deal with, and Sabrina needs to be held accountable for this egregious maneuver. The Kadabra itself is really good. How good? Kadabra has the tied 8th highest special stat in the game, and if you don't include Mewtwo and the legendary birds, the 4th highest non-legendary, and that's as the middle evolution. Plus, its 105 base speed is the 11th highest overall. Bonkers. It should be noted Hypno's base special is only 5 behind Kadabra, putting it tied at 11th overall, because they get a section in a bit. Anyway, like I said, Kadabra's dropping that stanky leg on the reg and a verified loose unit, so I 100% understand its place on the team. Plus, it's almost definitely better than anything that replaces it, but the fact its existence means that Sabrina is forced to nerf her best Pokemon is a huge drawback. If Alakazam also had Psychic, then it might be excusable altogether. But it doesn't, and Kadabra must be blamed. So what can we replace Kadabra with? There's simultaneously more choices than you may think and less actual options. So there's Mew and Mewtwo, which are legendaries and not Pokemon she's going to have. Then there's Slowbro, Starmie, Exeggutor, Jinx, and Hypno. Jinx, Starmie, and Exeggutor are all good Pokemon, which brings some coverage to the team and would be excellent in the newer generations, because none of these Pokemon learn an offensive Psychic move. And maybe this is fallacious reasoning of me, but I think it makes sense for each Pokemon in a gym to have an attacking move correlating to the gym's typing. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but that's just how I feel about it. And it's why I'm more interested in having a Venomoth with Psybeam than a Starmie with Swift and Water Gun. Although a Jinx with Ice Punch or an Exeggutor with Leech Seed, Stomp, and Hypnosis could be really useful, but still not as good as a Kadabra with Psychic. So we have Hypno and Slowbro. Once again, they're both weaker than Kadabra, but if you're moving Psychic to Alakazam, then you kinda need to weaken the team anyway. Hypno is basically a worse Kadabra with slightly more status effects moves. Firstly, at level 37, it learns Psychic, so boom, right there's some good strength. You could also have Hypnosis for that ever OP sleep effect. If you really wanted to keep Kadabras disabled, then there's that option, and maybe you take Poison Gas, but Venomoth has Poison Powder, so maybe you just go with Headbutt. Hypno is pretty solid and has some good moves to choose from and could easily slot in right here. Slowbro is a little harder to justify. Unfortunately, it doesn't learn either of its very powerful Psychic moves until after the level it would be at on Sabrina's team. Amnesia, which it learns at level 44, raises its special by 2 stages, so both special attack and special defense. A ridiculously good move in this form, if not outwardly the best move, maybe of all time, and Psychic, which it learns at level 55, is Psychic. So you'd have something like Water Gun, Confusion, Disable, and Headbutt, which is fairly whatever. I'd much rather take a Glass Cannon with Psychic and just rock the world, because even with the mild coverage Water Gun provides, a Psychic from Kadabra or even Hypno is going to do more damage to everything but Pokemon 4 times weak to water, and even then, it's not too different. So I think Hypno is the choice that you go with. Obviously, you can play around with Venomoth and Mr. Mime, but we're just trying to fix major mistakes and not trying to make the best team possible, so I don't think we need to dwell on them too much. This altogether means that Sabrina gets an A-. Kadabra would be a fine inclusion and would keep Sabrina in A+ territory if it wasn't for the fact that it forces Sabrina to make an actual full-on hard int move. Like, her Alakazam doesn't have Psychic, for the sole purpose of making her best Pokemon worse. An inconceivably bad decision and 100% warrants a full grade drop. Which you may be asking, doesn't that mean she'd get a B+? Yeah, but I actually really like what she's doing everywhere else. I think her team, apart from this one mistake, is a safe A+, or theoretically an A++. Hence, a full grade drop becomes an A-. I think there's some good diversity. Venomoth and Mr. Mime bring in a new flavor to the team, and they're not just reskins of the same strategy, and that is some higher level thinking and worthy of recognition. I also think that apart from just letting Alakazam have Psychic and switching Hypno in for Kadabra, which in this one particular case, avoiding doubling up evolution lines at all costs, isn't necessary, there's not really any issues going on here. Jinx, Starmie, Exeggutor, and Slowbro aren't going to make her team stronger or better in any substantial way, if at all. So Sabrina is already basically at peak strength, and that should be respected. So yeah, A-, but literally just switch Alakazam Psybeam for Psychic and boom, this is an easy A+. Ah, sheesh, this is a bad one. Blaine's team is comprised of a level 42 Growlithe, a level 40 Ponyta, a level 42 Rapidash, and a level 47 Arcanine. I mean, it's pretty clear what the major issue is, but there's some smaller ones which we can get into first. Ponyta and Rapidash both suffer from the same move mismanagement, and it's really dumb. As you can see, they both only have one fire move, which is Fire Spin, an alright move, but not the best. Warning, I'm about to do a bunch of moderately simple math, but it should be fairly easy to follow along. Fire Spin only has 15 base power and hits somewhere between 2 and 5 times, with the victim not being able to attack when entrapped, so it's really a minimum of 30 base power if it hits twice, which there's a 37.5% chance of. 45 base power if it hits 3 times, also a 37.5% chance, with 4 and 5 hits having 60 and 75 base power respectively, while both having 12.5% chance of occurring. This sounds fairly good, but it overall only has 70 accuracy. So when the move Fire Spin is used, there's really a 26.25% chance of hitting 2 or 3 times and a 8.75% chance to hit 4 or 5 times, with a straight 30% chance to miss. That is a lot of numbers, but basically, it's an alright fire attack, with the biggest drawback being its accuracy and overall inconsistency, but it has some sort of high damage output potential. With that said, do they have another choice? Yes, notably, neither have Ember, a move they should have. But because of Fire Spin's weird mechanic, this may not actually be as bad of a misplay as it seems on the surface. If we take into account the average base power output that Fire Spin can do, it might not actually be worse, and Blaine might be pulling off a big brain move. Over the course of 100 Embers, you'd see an average base power output of 40, because it hits every time at 40 base power. Well, 100 accuracy moves have a 1 in 256 chance to miss in Gen 1, but ignoring that. Let's compare this to 100 Fire Spins. When we take into account the average chance to miss, plus the average chance of Fire Spin's equivalent base power depending on the amount of times it hits, we can find the actual base damage for Fire Spin. So 0 times 30 for a miss, 30 times 26.25 for 2 hits, 45 times 26.25 for 3 hits, 60 times 8.75 for 4 hits, and 75 for 8.75 for 5 hits. Add that all together, then divide it by 100 to find the average base power output of a Fire Spin on any given use, and we'd get a fire move with the base power of 31.05. Jesus Christ, Blaine, I'm busting my balls over here trying to justify this full bell end of a moveset because maybe the smooth brain appearance of not having Ember was actually a wrinkly brain move all along, but nope, not having Ember on these two Pokemon is as dumb as it seems. This is worse because both have Growl and Tail Whip, ooh, scary, which are both moves that you could get rid of without being concerned. Tail Whip is also only really helpful when his team attacks with Stomp or Takedown, so it doesn't even make his fire moves better, which is just strange synergy. Hold up, have I jumped the gun on my agitation towards Blaine? I'm not taking into account what can happen if you get the Pokemon in a Fire Spin death cycle, where you can knock out a Pokemon before it even gets a hit on you. This requires you to be faster, so you go first, and for you not to miss, which will happen 30% of the time. Ponyta and Rapidash have good base speed, so the outspeeding part is gonna happen most of the time. Over the course of 4 Fire Spins, if you only miss once, which you'd expect, then the enemy Pokemon has attacked once, and you've, using the average we worked out before, have done the equivalent damage of a 93.15 base power move, which is really good and basically flamethrower. And this makes Fire Spin not just justifiable, but actually really, really good. Especially taking into account neither Ponyta or Rapidash can learn Flamethrower. Now, if you manage to burn the Pokemon like happened to me by Growlithe Ember, then you can basically just stall out even much stronger Pokemon, i.e. a Victory Bell Poison Powder Wrap scenario. But if anything, this just points to why they should both have Ember even more, and this choice would maybe be excusable if their other 3 moves were good, but 2 of them could easily be replaced. So I think we can do all the math we want to see if Fire Spin is better than Ember in Gen 1, and I think it is, but we just can't make this argument about Growl or Tail Whip being there instead of Ember. And honestly, I'm here for a gym leader using this massive brain strat, and individually, I think Fire Spin over Ember is a good choice. But I can't really give Blaine credit for it in the same way I could give Erika credit for hers, because Blaine instantly follows it up with a boneheaded play of having Tail Whip and Growl over Ember, where Erika had arguably her best moveset possible. Growlithe and Arcanine are theoretically a little more interesting because they at least have different movesets, but honestly, both are pretty naff in my opinion. Growlithe is a massive shrug. Ember, Takedown, Leer, and Agility. Alright. I mean, maybe if it pops an Agility, then Leer's enemy's first turn, which when combined with Takedown might get you somewhere. But if that's his strat you're going for, I'm not even sure what you're doing. Arcanine I also basically have no thoughts on. Fire Blast is a good move, and credit to Blaine for giving his Pokemon the best fire move in the game. That's actually base level thinking. It's worth noting as well that Fire Blast is even better in Gen 1 because its accuracy is 85, not 70, cutting its miss rate in half. So Arcanine exists and in itself is a good addition to the team, and I like what Blaine's doing here. Let's get into the big issue. Blaine has 4 Pokemon from 2 evolution lines. consisting of the pre-evolution and the fully evolved version in both cases. Having these Pokemon on the team in the first place is inexcusable, but not having them evolved is ridiculous. Growlithe might have a case for not being evolved. It learns Flamethrower at level 50 while Arcanine doesn't learn any new moves, so holding off until then to evolve it is probably for the best, because otherwise your best fire move is Ember, and Flamethrower is over doubly strong. 95 base power over Ember's 40. Doing this also allows for Growlithe to have Agility, which it learns at level 39, and a move Arcanine can't learn. I mean, I guess Agility is a better move than Bite or Roar, I suppose, and I think I have to give credit for this, and once he gets Flamethrower, popping in Agility then just dousing people in flames would be pretty scary, so Blaine needs some credit. It's just this tactical thinking has so much less potency on a Pokemon that shouldn't be on the team. Why not have Agility on Arcanine, then just have a different Pokemon? It still carries some weight, but it's all got an asterisk next to it, even if it is moderately smart. This argument cannot be used for Ponyta, which evolves at level 40, the exact level it is at. I mean, what are you doing, Blaine? Just evolve your Pokemon! You are actively keeping a shittier version of an already average Pokemon on your team, and for what? Some weird symmetry? No, totally bullshit, outright dumb, and not anything a regular person would do. And if they did, they'd be doing it for funsies, and for us, Pokemon is a game for funsies, so they'd get a pass. But for you, the 7th gym leader of the region, Pokemon is your job, and active sandbagging is always an act of villainy, and not living up to the motto we've been conditioned to live by. I want to be the very best. So what choices are there for Blaine to replace his Ponyta and Growlithe? Well, there's 3, and they're all viable. Charizard and Moltres aren't going to make it as we know, so that leaves us with Flareon, Ninetales, and Magma. Any of these would be good. I'm only going to do a little summary on each because it doesn't really matter what you choose, as they have all been justified by the fact they're not Ponyta or Growlithe. And maybe you just pick one and Blaine's team is just 3 Pokemon to not make the team too powerful, which, future video spoilers, is what happens in Yellow. But either way, here's the other options. Flareon, who has a combination of Ponyta and Growlithe's moves. Quick Attack, Bite, which Growlithe can have, Ember, and Tail Whip, or something like that. Nothing to really write home about. Ninetales' moveset has a little more zhuzh. I mean, Ninetales itself has pretty bog standard stuff. However, if Blaine evolved Vulpix up to level 35, you could have a Ninetales with Quick Attack, Ember, Confuse Ray, and Flamethrower. A good fire move and the ability to confuse, something different. Do I trust Blaine to evolve Ninetales at the right time though? Given that his Growlithe has agility and the fact that he might be holding off evolving his Growlithe for Flamethrower, I think there's a chance he'd be able to pull it off. But when we consider the Ponyta situation, it indicates that's more pure luck and not intentional at all, so there's still a moderate chance he'd fuck it up. Lastly, Magma. I would love to see Magma on a team for similar reasons it'd be fun to see Electabuzz. Plus, in the anime, he has a freak of a Magma, which was made later, but still kind of fun. You need it to be at least level 43 for it to be of note, which is doable, and then you'd get Ember, Leer, Confuse Ray, and Fire Punch. But just like the other two, pretty standard stuff that isn't really all that interesting. Blaine's team is arguably the most boring to actually discuss. The team is just so notably bad because of its Ponyta and Growlithe inclusions, and the replacements are kind of similar in that they're all pure fire types with similar movesets and roughly the same strength. So fixing the team isn't hard, nor do the other options really give you anything to sink your teeth into. With all that said, the fire type gym leader gets himself an E-. Having 2 evolution lines for 4 Pokemon, atrocious. Having 2 pre-evolution lines that should be evolved with one of them maybe having an excuse, terrible. Having 2 Pokemon no Growl and not Ember, just stupid. I really considered giving him an F, but he has done just enough that I think that's too harsh. The Fire Spin Death Cycle is a legit tactic, and I like it better than just have an Ember. Maybe he's holding off Growlithe for Flamethrower, a smart and patient move. His TM is Fire Blast, the best fire move in the game, rather than just some random shit. So these are enough to push him back up to an illustrious E-, and he gets to dodge being associated with the likes of Koga. And honestly, nobody deserves to be associated with the likes of Koga. The big bad Team Rocket leader himself, Giovanni, the last of the crop. And I mean this when I say this, he is the 8th gym leader. Truly, no lie. Giovanni has a level 45 Rhyhorn, a level 42 Dugtrio, a level 44 Nidoqueen, a level 45 Nidoking, and a level 50 Rhydon. Giovanni has a few issues, some of which are his fault and some of which aren't. The big issue Giovanni has that we've seen a couple times before, but something you'd hope the 8th gym leader would avoid, is the fact that on his entire team, he only has 2 ground type moves. Now, the lack of ground type moves isn't explicitly his fault, as only one Pokemon on his team learns a ground type move naturally. So he's doubled what the norm would be, but he also chose these Pokemon and he could have made other choices, so that's a strike against him. Let's just knock Dugtrio out of the way as it's the least folly-filled edition. Dugtrio's moves are pretty solid. Slash and Dig are genuinely really good. Dig is 100 base power in Gen 1 and Slash always crits, so they are much stronger than you'd expect. Also, Dig is the only naturally occurring ground move on the entire team. Sound attack, sure. Sound, ground, I get it. Growl, whatever. There's not really other choices anyway, so pretty solid pick right here. Next we have Nidoking and Nidoqueen, which in theory are a lot better than in practice. These are 2 absolute classics of Gen 1, and they have a fairly unique ability which makes them really good choices on most teams. The problem is that their unique ability is something that Giovanni can't take advantage of, because the best asset these 2 have is their ability to learn a large array of TMs across a wide spectrum of types. And as we've discussed, gym leaders don't teach TMs to their Pokemon past their special TM to their special Pokemon. This is the full list of TMs that Nidoqueen and Nidoking can learn. As you can see, it's basically every TM, including some really powerful ground, water, fire, electric, rock, fighting, and normal type moves. Compare this to other strong Pokemon like Alakazam, and you can see that while they can learn a collection of moves, it's nowhere near the same amount, or the same sort of type diversity. What we're left with is 2 Pokemon that have 3 normal type moves each, with varying levels of power. Thrash and Body Slam are both solid, high damage moves, so they're fair, but they make Tackle and Scratch redundant. This is pretty common in Gen 1, it just points to the wasted potential. Lastly, the move they both share, and their only stab move, Poison Sting, a really weak poison move that even when it's super effective, you may as well just use one of the more useful normal type attacks because that'll do more damage. All this just means that at first I think having Nidoqueen and Nidoking makes sense and is really good, but because they won't learn TMs, having both of them on the team is less sensible and respectable. Of course, every Pokemon is negatively affected by not learning TMs, but these 2 are affected more than any other because learning a wider range of TMs is what makes them so good in Gen 1. That and being able to get them at level 16. Either way, they're still decent choices for Giovanni, but if they're just going to be strong Pokemon with good normal type attacks, then straight up his Kangaskhan would be better. So on the face, they're amazing picks, but in practice, they're maybe above average and they don't fend off potentially better options in the way you'd probably expect, or make their existence on the team an infallible choice. Now we have Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn evolves into Rhydon at level 42, so once again we have a case of gym leader sandbagging. This doesn't have any move-related reasons this could be good like Growlithe, or any strength-related justification like Kadabra. It's just a way to make the team weaker. Of course, this is the programmers, but blah blah blah, still his fault, still gets blamed, still drops his grades, still as stupid as ever, and still offensive to good Pokemon team construction sensibilities. We're too deep in to be surprised or to get the anger juices flowing about this. As far as the Pokemon itself, literally whatever. It's a Rhyhorn. It has Rhyhorn's moves and they're perfectly adequate. I'll talk about replacements in a minute, but let's finish off the team with his Rhydon. Rhydon, just like Rhyhorn, is whatever, and a big part of this unimpassioned response is that their move list is just filled with normal type moves. Sure, they're pretty good, but Rhyhorn is a pretty good Pokemon, so I'm not impressed. The only interesting thing is Horndrill, which is part of a cursed move pool that kind of sits outside regular Pokemon moves. This is of course for the fact that it is a one-hit KO move. One-hit KO moves are exactly what they sound like. If they hit, the Pokemon is instantly knocked out, no matter their health. Most people don't use them because they're kind of stupid. They also have 30 accuracy, which is really bad. They also have weird caveats on when they hit. In Gen 2 onwards, they only hit if the Pokemon using the move is a higher level, and the higher levels above, the more chance they have to hit. This is fine, but means that if you're at a point where the accuracy is alright, you can probably just knock them out with a solid move. So overall, they're not even that useful. In Gen 1, this is different and arguably less or more useful, but it's really Pokemon dependent, because in Gen 1, you can only hit if the Pokemon has higher speed. So a question you're probably thinking is, do Rhyhorn and Rhydon have good speed? Because they'll need it to make this move even usable. The answer is no, not at all. Rhydon has the 21st lowest base speed stat in the game, and Rhyhorn has the 4th lowest. So the only Pokemon Rhyhorn would expect to hit if they were going against a Pokemon of equivalent level is Slowpoke, Geodude, and Jigglypuff, which it would never expect to verse since they would have all evolved by level 45, and at that point, it'd be a different Pokemon and they'd have higher speed. So basically, this move will hit no one Rhyhorn would really be versing, unless Rhyhorn was a stack of levels above, at which point just use a regular move. The same thing more or less goes for Rhydon, only expecting to hit Parasect, Snorlax, Slowbro, Graveler, Clefairy, Lickitung, and Porygon, if it were versing Pokemon as evolved as they should be by its level 50. So really, this already pretty bad move that most people just avoid is terrible when you consider when it is likely to ever be useful. But I mean, that's not really Giovanni's fault, it's just that the most notable move on 2 of his Pokemon don't really happen to help him at all. So let's talk about Rhydon's unique move, the move Giovanni used a TM to give him, a move Giovanni claims he created, the second ground type move on his entire team. You may have seen it before, or maybe you just know, but in reality, I'm sure we all know what it's going to be. He's the 8th gym leader. He's a ground type trainer. There's only one option, the strongest ground type move there is. That's right, Fissure. No, not Earthquake, Fissure. A move that does exactly the same thing as Horn Drill. Giovanni, what the actual fuck? This is a whole new world of bat. This is legitimately a level of shitness I had no idea was coming. His TM is literally redundant, and on top of that, fucking useless. Bite is bad, but it works on Onix, and it's the first gym. Psywave is not what it could be, but it still has value. Fissure literally does nothing for his team. A team in desperate need of another ground move, because apparently fuck actually picking Pokemon with ground moves. Just, god damn, I hate this so much. Giovanni, why are you so stupid? When I first started this analysis, I thought the Fissure choice would maybe have some interesting character justification. Giovanni's a thief and a cheat, and a one-hit KO moves are kind of like cheating, stealing away the chance for an actual battle. Plus, they only hit lower level Pokemon, and Giovanni likes beating up on those weaker than him. And while the cheating element still stands, it does absolutely nothing to overcome the fact that this move literally doesn't help him in any way, except giving him more shots at one-hit KO moves, which on his Rhydon are fucking useless. And in Gen 1, other trainers aren't even constricted by PowerPoint restrictions. Boo, Giovanni, boo, you suck. Now that I've done that, what are the other ground type options? Well, there's a few clear ones. We have Onix, Sandslash, Golem, and Marowak. To kick it off, Brock has an Onix, so I know the game's not going to do it like that. It could, but it won't. Even if it did, it doesn't learn a ground type move, and it's weaker than his team, so no bigs with it not being a part of the squad. Sandslash seems like a really good choice, but it doesn't have a ground type move. Not that Giovanni seems to really care about that, but I'm not going to argue that Sandslash and its best move, Slash, needs to be on the team. So that leaves us with Golem and Marowak, which both have strong ground type moves and I think really should be here. But they also have slight reasons why they wouldn't make the cut. Golem is the full evolution of Geodude, which is on Brock's team. But I don't care about Gym Leader double ups, they're not the same Pokemon anyway, and I think Geodude shouldn't even be on that team as I've explained. Marowak is already part of a special battle in the game in that it's the Mystery Ghost in the Ghost Tower. So maybe it's already had its time in the spotlight, but Koga has 2 coughing, so fuck that noise. It can be on Giovanni's ground type team with its ground type move. Now that's done with, Golem, a Pokemon that I think would be a great team member. Firstly, it would be the only Pokemon with the actual best ground move, Earthquake, plus it has Rock Throw, some mild coverage, some other move, and lastly, Kaboom Boom Pow, Explosion would be a wildcard move that I am here for. Marowak would also make a bunch of sense. Firstly, it has Thrash, so Nidoking, your best move is covered, and maybe we don't need you. It'd probably have Headbutt, something else, and Bone Club. It wouldn't have Bonerang until level 48, but Bone Club can hold steady until then. There's no need to go into tons of depth. I think both of them make the team. They have ground type moves and less redundancies. But hey, as always, I'm not looking for the best or the strongest team, just a standard team a kid would be able to put together. This means that to me, Giovanni gets a C. Rhyhorn has double stupidity. It's the pre-evolution of his best Pokemon, always bad, and not even fully evolved when it could be, forever egregious. Nidoking and Nidoqueen seem like straight winners, but don't really do much to differentiate themselves from your standard strong Pokemon or each other without TMs. But the lack of differentiation is mostly due to their average movesets, and I can't really hold it against Giovanni for having them. It just doesn't help him. Dog Trio? Good. When it comes to new members, there's 2 choices which I would have on the team over what he has now, with only 1 change required. So some room for improvement, but nothing too crazy. Lastly, having Fissure on his Rhydon is actually mind-numbingly upsetting and I can't get on board at all, so that by itself is a full grade drop. But this team is still alright and hits enough positives to not be painfully horrible, so it would just be punitive to go any lower than a C. So that's it, that's everyone. What a wild and wacky ride we've all been on. Let's review the final grades and see how the Gen 1 gym leaders rate at creating even palatable teams. In our number 1 spot, the gym leader who showed they had an elementary grasp on team creation, and most importantly, the gym leader who didn't pull any top shelf fuckwittery, the only A+ awarded to anyone. Erika. Is her team good? I mean, it's good enough. I thought the doubling up on poison grass types would be her undoing, but she scraped through because of no real good options. Tangler's a disaster, but still not enough to knock her down. She also pulled some tricky AI magic to get Razor Leaf and Petal Dance onto her Pokemon, and that's the sort of game-breaking nonsense I love to see from the AI. So, all credit to you, Erika, you deserve your gold medal. Wear it with pride. All Sabrina had to do was give her Alakazam Psychic, and it's an A+. And not just an A+, she'd be in the number 1 spot over Erika. But she didn't. She decided to not give arguably the 2nd best Pokemon in the entire game, arguably the best move in the entire game. And goddamn, that's such a terrible decision, and A- is what you deserve. Apart from that, her Mr. Mime and Venomoth gave her more interesting strategies than anyone else on the list, proving she truly does have the biggest brain. But once again, she let her Alakazam languish with Psybeam. So, a silver is all she gets. Picking up the bronze medal with a nice solid B, Brock. Did Brock benefit from being the first gym leader and not having enough Pokemon to really make mistakes? Yeah, oh definitely. I think if he was later in the list or had more time to fuck up, he'd have a lower grade, no doubt. He showed no ability to create a team properly, and his lack of rock-type moves means he failed to demonstrate even basic common sense. But he had 2 Pokemon, and they were different, and that's good enough for a B in Gen 1. Giovanni, a team way more interesting and powerful on paper than it actually turned out to be, and he can't really be blamed for that. What he can be blamed for is his apparent dissuasion for ground types with actual ground type moves, and that's stupid. Plus, having his TM literally be the most useless for his team out of all the gym leader TMs is truly disgraceful for an 8th gym leader. But despite this, he got a C and made the top half, so congrats. Lieutenant Surge. God damn, I hate what you did with your Raichu. It's frustrating and stupid, and the fact you have 2 of the same evolution line rather than having an Electabuzz is lazy. But your team is still alright, and there's not too many options for other electric types anyway, so you did okay. I mean, not really, but D+ isn't terrible. On one hand, I feel like I've done Misty dirty, and an E+ is way too harsh for a team this simple. But then I remember all the other water Pokemon in the game, and that even with way less options than her, almost every other gym leader managed to diversify better, and the grade stays justified. I do like Starmie though, which I have a soft spot for, and honestly, that may have clouded my judgment into making her grade too high. Either way, we move on. Barely escaping an F, Blaine. He had a bunch of options available and could have had a strong and enjoyable team. Instead, he went for boring as fuck options that I can't get behind. 2 pre-evolved forms and then the 2 fully evolved versions. Why? Ponyta not being evolved just hurts. I don't get it. I legitimately don't understand what he's doing. But I suppose a congrats is in order because despite a mess of a team and an embarrassingly low grade for a criteria as incredibly achievable as this, he still wasn't last. No, last place is reserved for the absolute pits of team construction. A man who seems less interested in his job as a gym leader and seems more interested in making his Pokemon team fit his ninja lifestyle. A man who I'm unsure even understands the base level concepts of being a Pokemon trainer. A man whose sadistic ways and downright horrific decision making makes me genuinely question how people get assigned the role of gym leader. Koga, you suck, and even 8th place seems too high of a ranking.
That's it for episode 1. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. This was an incredibly fun video to make. Diving into the details, I came up with so many realizations, and the general grades and rankings I thought I would be assigning when I first started ended up being different for a whole slew of reasons that I had never even considered. With many of the specifics of why teams were good, or mostly why they were bad, being really fascinating to dive into in a really deep and real way. If you disagreed with anything I said, which you might, please let me know in the comments section below. I would never say that the grades I just assigned are indisputable, perfectly assigned and above debate, or even that I wouldn't change them if I analyzed the situation more. So if you had different ways of thinking or reasons that led you to coming to alternate conclusions, I would love to hear about them. Or if there's a crucial piece of information that I missed or even got wrong, please let me know. I'm always here to learn and improve my knowledge. As I said at the start of the video, this is a series I intend on completing, so the episode order will be as such. Up next, we're going to have Gen 2, all of them, because Gold and Silver have the same gym leaders as Crystal, which is unique for Pokemon. Then we'll be moving on to Gen 3 with Ruby and Sapphire, but then winding it back to Pokemon Yellow to mimic the way that the Gen 1 remakes came in between the Gen 3 games. Then we'll be bumping back to Diamond and Pearl, back to Gen 2, but the remakes this time. Then we'll be going to Black and White, Emerald, Platinum, Black and White 2. After that, I don't really know much about the games, and maybe I'll make a series on them eventually, but the first 5 gens is what I plan on doing. I also plan on making the same series, but for the Elite Four, so that's something I'll do way down the line. I'm also going to be making videos for a whole bunch of different games. Some will be video essays, some will be specific analysis like this, some will be challenge sort of things, a whole myriad of stuff. Some of the games I've already started planning or even working on are Raft, Sims 4, Skyrim, EU4. A lot of content is going to be coming down the pipe thick and fast. So once again, thank you for watching, and there will be a bunch of new content soon enough, and I will see you then. But for now, bye.